Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Just Open It, the YouTube series in which I open recently acquired toys. My name is Russ. Thank you very much for watching this episode. I really appreciate it. If you're a fellow toy collector or a fan of pop culture in general, please subscribe to my channel, Karaoke Fanboy TV. I do often open a recently acquired toy or collectible, and today I am opening from Mattel's DC Comics Multiverse, Son of Batman, a character from the graphic novel Batman The Dark Knight Returns. Now, if you're not a big comic book person, a little history. Comic book creator Frank Miller was big on the scene in the 80s. He was achieving some success at Marvel Comics on Daredevil. In fact, he wrote the story called Born Again, the title that the MCU and Disney Plus are now using for the latest Daredevil television show. Well, after that success, he went over to DC Comics and he created, wrote, drew The Dark Knight Returns, a kind of dystopian look at Batman's future. What would a middle-aged Batman be like in essentially the 80s, facing the scare of nuclear war and urban crime and so on? It was an incredible story. To this day, my favorite superhero comic book of all time. I think it set trends that the industry is still pursuing, perhaps through the likes of titles like Absolute Batman and so on. The idea of looking at a different era in Batman's kind of storied career and just milking it for all of its potential. Not just looking at the character, but looking at the world around him. Well, comic books have been doing that with archetypal superheroes ever since. And so after that, Frank went on to other really successful comic projects like Sin City he created, 300. These were, of course, adapted as films. So to say that he's been an influential creator in the comic book industry and art form is an understatement. That said, some of the original characters he's created have achieved their own plastic incarnations. They've attained their own action figure counterparts. Believe it or not, as a fan of The Dark Knight Returns, I really didn't get into Dark Knight Returns action figures until McFarlane Toys released their wave a couple of years ago now, and I did open those figures on this very channel. I believe one of my most viewed videos ever is my assembling Batman's horse, as you acquired different parts of it through each of those figures. It was a build-a-figure, so if you bought Batman, like you got the horse's head or something like that, very mafioso. If you got Robin, like you got the back legs, whatever it was. So I do have those figures. But prior to that release by McFarlane Toys, Mattel had the DC license. They released Batman The Dark Knight Returns figures, and they went a little deeper into the catalog of characters, including this very guy, Son of Batman, who is essentially a reformed gangster, once known as one of the mutants that ran the streets of Gotham. When they saw what Batman was capable of, when Batman took out their leader, they were like, this is the guy we want to follow. So they became the sons and the daughters of the Batman. I saw this figure at a local Bookman's, which is kind of a media resale store. Books, comics, DVDs, all sorts of toys and collectibles. So I snatched him up. And the relevance of opening this figure today is McFarlane Toys has lost the license to DC Comics. I believe it rides out till the end of this year. I'm not 100% sure of that, but the next waves of DC figures that McFarlane Toys will release are among the last. So prior to McFarlane Toys, of course, Mattel released Superman, Batman, and other DC Comics toys. And since this came out in 2015, this might have been among some of the last figures that they ever put out, Mattel. So by opening this now, 10 years after it came out, is this a sign of what Mattel is returning to? Is this what their model for the future will look like, going into these kind of deep, very story-specific kind of characters? Or are they going to take a different approach entirely? So, celebrating the past, looking at the future. Yes, I was going to say that we're celebrating the fast, which may be a combination of the past and the future. Let's do it. Let's just open him and see if he is as cool as I would believe his comic counterpart would make him out to be. Interestingly, we are taped here on the side. I don't know if this is, you know, Bookman sells used items, so this may very well be a figure that was once opened and then resealed. Okay, well that was easy. I don't know if there are accessories missing or what. The box is obviously beat up quite a bit. Okay, easy extraction. And it looks like all of the accessories are in place. Got a shotgun and a torch. Is everything going to come out? Oh, is this going to be like... Wow. So no pesky plastic or rubber bands holding this figure in the clamshell. Came right out. This is how opening a toy should be. I'm an 8-year-old. I just want to play with this thing. I shouldn't be finagling with little bands and pieces of plastic and stuff like that. I complain about it all the time, and I'm still complaining about it, even though it didn't happen in this case. Kind of an interesting backdrop here. Has really nothing to do with The Dark Knight Returns, but a design element I don't want to ignore because somebody had to make that. So, interesting. But here he is, son of the Batman. And I could tell by the tightness of the joints that perhaps this figure had never been opened. I know because I have other Mattel DC figures right here. This whole middle shelf here is nothing but Mattel's, what were these called? DC Classics or something like that. Love that line of figures. And I bring it up because I could tell that the legs, or at least the thighs on this guy, are that same mold from so many of these guys. Very bizarre detail that I don't believe I noticed. But that said, let's get this guy riot ready. Torch. Rifle. And then I will do a reveal. Yeah, these hands are the same as those Classics figures. So, Mattel, kind of infamous for reusing parts. One of the reasons I'm opening this guy too is I've opened so many Masters of the Universe Origins lately. I just kind of wanted a break from Eternia, and yet it's still a Mattel product, so I'm able to kind of make these notes from my experience with them. But look at how cool that looks. It's got the face paint ready to go into some sort of urban warfare with a gang of jokers or something, I don't know, but it'd be interesting to, this is clearly for an adult collector, like what child is playing with this former mutant turned son of Batman who's basically like glorified militia. And again, he's coming with a torch and a rifle. Not a toy necessarily for a child, but at the same time, that's when I read this story, was somewhere around 10, 11 years old. So if I had seen this action figure then, I would have been all about it. And I still am, obviously. Simple, regular points of articulation here for a modern figure. A lot of posability, a lot of possibility. I love that he did not come with multiple heads and hands. It's a pretty straightforward 2 accessories, 1 for each hand. The balance of the figure is sound. He could stand quite easily for displayability. No issue there. All in all, a simple, delightful, a fine figure that honors the source material, and again is perhaps a foreshadowing for where Mattel may pick up where it left off with the DC license. I mean, I could only hope. Again, super fan of these figures. Happy to have this one join them. And we'll see what they have in store for us in 2026 and beyond. There he is, Son of Batman, from Mattel's DC Comics Multiverse from 2015. A blast from the past. Thanks again for watching this video. I really appreciate it. You know, I make comics too. I self-publish a mini comic called Amazing Arizona Comics. I post all about it on my Instagram at AmazingAZComics. Please follow me there. I'd really appreciate your support on Instagram if you're interested in mini comics, zines, small press. That's where I share that stuff. Tune in next time right here on YouTube when I grab another unopened toy from the growing pile here in my living room and I say, you know what? Just open it. I'll catch you next time.